Oh, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm really pleased to be here. My name's Nicole Amsing. I'm a coach with Lean Enterprise Australia, and I'm here in Melbourne this morning, just after 11 a.m. And I'm thrilled to be able to be sharing the stage this morning with Robert Bruce. Robert is a coach also with Lean Enterprise Australia, but has a very long and successful history in lean thinking and practice and supporting organisations with their transformational work. And Robert's going to share with us this morning some of those experiences that he's had with Amazon. So we're really thrilled, Robert, to be able to hear about your work with Amazon and the work that you have done there using lean thinking and the lean transformation framework. So over to you, Robert. Thanks very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicole, for that introduction. So delighted to share this story about starting Amazon Australia up. I think everybody can see my screen, so we'll just do a screen check. Is that?
Yes, we can see your slides, Robert.
Excellent. So firstly, I want to thank Jim Womack for turning up in the first 50 days of startup, and that's a picture of Jim getting out of the car at Mel 1 in Dandenong, and was a fantastically inspirational day for the team. So basically what I'm going to talk about is the lean transformation framework and how pivotal that was for me maybe a decade or so ago. So this is before I led the startup of Amazon, and how that helped me join all the dots. And then when I did the startup for Amazon, that was it was an excellent framework for me to follow. So I thought I'd share some of that with you today. Just quickly, a little bit about my lean journey. So lived and worked in 9 different countries around the globe, a number of different organizations, long time in automotive, but really my roots with lean go back to university and 1987, studied as a topic just in time. So that was my sort of beginning, and I've never looked back. Just some of my sort of philosophies on operational or supply chain excellence. And if you're building from scratch or you're doing a transformation, really, for me, it starts with leadership, mindset, and behaviors. And if you get that right as leaders, that has an impact on the organization and creates something that I call the lean spirit. So that energy, that spirit that the people get when they're supported from leadership. That on the left-hand side of the diagram for me creates the energy and the passion for people. But people are people, and without some big hairy goal, that energy will dissipate if we don't channel it. So that's where the concept of true north is really important, something audacious and out there, and people will respond to that. And then creating target conditions along the way towards true north, to break it down into more achievable sort of shorter term chunks. And then there's that rapid iterative journey, PDCA journey, towards target condition and true north. So that's sort of how I see the world, whether it's manufacturing or supply chain. So let's move to the lean transformation framework. I think my first sight of that was maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And it really, really resonated because I heard so many people talking about lean as a bag of tools, and that never really computed with me. It was always far more than that. So when John Shook put this together, it sort of joined all the dots for me in terms of a system situationally applied. It includes the culture, the management system, the dream or the why and the purpose, and bringing all that together to be able to align and create a house for wherever you are. So that's sort of the background. So let's jump into the roof for Amazon Australia. So everybody knows Amazon. Jeff's been around a long time. The sort of top of the roof from a global perspective, very clear. No need to fiddle with that. So that was sort of our star. But then we did set our own goal in terms of Amazon Australia. We wanted to have fun. We wanted to make history, but we also wanted to do the best launch in Amazon history, country launch in Amazon history. So of which we were, I think, number 13. 13 is an unlucky number. So we were determined to make it a lucky number. And then, we used that as I started to build the team to get everybody on board and align them to that vision. And the power of alignment cannot be underestimated in terms of the speed and energy that you can create in an organization. So just to give you an idea of the speed that we have to move at, I was employed in June of 2017, and we actually launched on the 5th of December 2015. And back in June, we had no facility, no fulfillment center. We had no last mile transport. We were starting from scratch. So you can imagine the speed that we had to move at. And alignment builds trust, and trust is directly proportional to the speed that you can move at. So very, very important. And then cascading that and breaking that down into projects was absolutely key. So traditionally in Lean, we'd call that Hoshin planning and cascading the goals. We did that very, very early on in the life cycle of Amazon Australia. Moving on to capability. So when John Shook talks about the house, he talks about what is the work to be done first on the process side. But again, situational. When you're doing a startup, it's sort of parallel. But when my brain was at the time is, we basically know what the work to be done is. But we have to find capability, human capability, very quickly. So that's where I spent a lot of my effort getting the best team possible together, much smarter than me, and building trust very, very quickly. So this is a picture of the early team, and really a global search within Amazon, outside of Amazon, a list of all the 50 most talented people I'd ever worked for, all of those inputs to absolutely find an incredible team that we could then move at speed. And when you're building something as rapid and as huge as Amazon Australia that it's become, those seeds of that talent you bring on board sort of define, success or failure. So it's absolutely key, and they've killed every KPI that you can possibly think of in terms of blowing it out of the water. So there we go. Absolutely imperative. The other parts to capability, and John mainly talks about human capability, but when you're doing a startup of this sort of physical and digital nature, the other capability is the footprint and the physical space that you need to create. So the fulfillment center or centers that you need to create. Also, the technology not delivered on a plate from Amazon. So, you know, basically situational within the country. Is it a manual fulfillment center? Is it an automated fulfillment center? We ended up going with manual, spending 50 million instead of 500 million and doing it in 5 months instead of 2 years, so that we could be rapid and flexible. So building that capability was critical. So this is Mel1. This is the first fulfillment center. So this was an old Bunnings warehouse that in that 5-month period, we completely refurbished, kitted out with physical and technology, and trained people, recruited people, and ready to go for day one on December the 5th, 2017. Then there are the system side of it. So Amazon has some amazing systems. A lot of them are incorporated under what they call SCOT. SCOT has some of the most advanced AI algorithmic thinking of any organization in the world. But we had sort of our hand tied behind our back, because with a new country, SCOT relies on history of data to predict and to run that machine. So starting a new country, you can't hand it over to SCOT. So a lot of that stuff we had to do manually in the background to create enough history so that you could then switch SCOT on. And that takes more than 12 months to gain enough history so that SCOT can make some meaningful data out of it. So our systems were really sticky tape and sellotape of other bits and pieces of Amazon technology around the world to start us off. So we also had to create that. Then there's the, okay, what is the work to be done, and how do we improve that? And I wanted to start that off very early in the cycle in terms of that improvement cycle. So if we look at Amazon, really anywhere in the world, you can actually chunk it down to something very, very simple, which is you have a supplier, and you have fulfillment centers, and you have the customer. And in the fulfillment center, you've got 5 very simple steps, which is receive, stow or put away, pick, pack, and dispatch. And then you've got those overarching systems of SCOT or and plus other systems that basically link to all those steps to give you the real-time customer data, and are driven and prioritized by customer promise primarily, and then cost to optimize that delivery to the customer. This is where it gets interesting. So it sounds very simple, but then when you start layering up fulfillment center 2, fulfillment center 3, plus, you start having a network, and that becomes much, much more complex. And then we move on to these other layered things with Amazon. So, you know, you want to achieve more than 98% to customer promise. You've got, 300 plus million customers globally, billions of deliveries per year. What you think of as a very simple value stream suddenly becomes incredibly complex and large. But I found it very, very empowering to actually break it down to that simple picture first, rather than overwhelming with all of the complexity of it and all the data. And that was very helpful in terms of getting some initial rapid improvements and launching. So some of the tools that we used to help us improve very quickly from day one We're really understanding the 4 types of problem solving. And the more mature and innovative a company is, actually they tend to skew more up that curve to the 3 and 4 problem solving, and sort of there's a less percentage of 1 and 2 is what I've found in my career. So we really did jump in straight away with rapid A3 thinking right down to the front line. So this is a real example. This is a group of 3 or 4 operators in the dispatch area. We were dissecting lead time, so looking at that complete value stream through the fulfillment center. And this was an improvement project to rapidly shrink and improve that flow and reduce that lead time in the fulfillment center. And this was in the first 90 days. And these operators at the time were casual. They were third-party employees, but we wanted to build that skill in these employees. And actually the lead for this project, Lalith, is actually now the senior manager for Amazon Logistics. So what a fantastic story. Came in as a third-party casual, trained him in the lean tools, and he's now a senior manager in Amazon Logistics. That's why I get out of bed in the morning for stories like this. So another powerful tool was the 5 lean thinking principles. So you've got that simple value stream, but how do you have a methodology to take that, break it down, and improve? So Womack and Jones, the 5 steps, very, very powerful to engage the front line and break it down into smaller projects and start to visualize the waste as quickly as possible. For me, the golden metric, other than customer promise, is lead time, because lead time includes all of the waste in the system, and you can't hide that. And lead time is a key disruptive indicator that big companies like Amazon, who've grown phenomenally, have used lead time to create and accelerate that growth. So let's just dissect that a little bit more. If we think about one of the key things to win with somebody like Amazon, it's been their ability to shrink lead time to the customer. So if we just look at the Australian timeline, pre-Amazon launch, people in e-commerce, the customer, 5 to 7 days was sort of what they were used to. Amazon comes in, and we launched with a 2 to 3 day promise. We then rapidly launched Prime, and then by the middle end of 2018, so less than 12 months, we'd already launched Next Day, and then same day for 80% of the population was then achieved by 2022. And that fuels that convenience drug for people, shrinking the lead time, instant gratification, and is a very disruptive lever. So understanding that value stream thinking and those 5 steps, how to rapidly improve and shrink that lead time, is one of the secret sauces. So for me, it's really the only metric that includes all the waste and is highly disruptive if used in the right way. Some other major companies who understand the disruptive nature of lead time, Zara and Vistaprint, and I won't go into the Zara story, but it is a great one. Let's move into the center of the house, so management system. So how do you build that? So rapidly build that mindset and culture of discipline to standards and PDCA. So that is Mel 1. Look how clean the floor is. I didn't clean, the floor wasn't clean just for the picture. That's the standard we wanted to start at. Good 5S, good discipline, and a good foundation for improvement. The other part of it is that really rapid, innovative PDCA, fail fast, innovate fast, learn fast. 2 weeks before launch, I woke up at 3 a.m. with a cold sweat, thinking, we've individually tested all these bits of the value chain, but, Murphy's Law, it's always at bits of where those blocks join together that something goes wrong. How are we going to test this end to end without launching? So I got the team together the next morning and said, we have to pressure test the whole system out to end customers without launching. How are we going to do that, and what are we going to use? So in the background of this picture, you can actually see soap bars of soap with barcodes on. So, what product are we going to use? We found a company up on the Murray that made soap, and they had 10,000 bars of soap at 25 cents each. Bang, we'll have it. It was on a truck within, a few hours. How do we get customers? We connected with the retail and marketing end of the business. Within 2 days, we had 500 plus friends and family that we could send, which covered something like 300 postcodes across all of Australia. We designed a number of experiments, and within a week, we had done a number of experiments and started to get product delivered out to these friends and family group. The upshot was we ended up having to make 120-ish changes to software, to programming, to individual carrier routes from that data that we'd gathered. This was pivotal in terms of being able to launch at the level we wanted to launch, and that initial mission of we want it to be the best launch in Amazon history. And I'll come to the result later. Daily management, we got that in from pre-day one, even when we were in the sort of build phase. This is a picture of the real board at Mel 1. So you've got swim lanes, you've got individual photos and responsibility lanes. It's basically like a sprint board. Visual management in terms of colors of task cards broken down, so you can very quickly see what are the priorities, when it's due, and who's looking after it. And then a little bit of fun. If a task wasn't completed on time 3 times, they'd get a zebra stripe for each one on the bottom right-hand corner. And then we'd launch a Tim Tam card. And it was just sort of making the point that, you've let the team down and you need to give something back to the team. It was very effective because once we'd had 2 or 3 Tim Tam cards in the board, that tapered off very quickly, and people understood they were part of a team and they needed to deliver what was agreed on by when. And that certainly started to move things very quickly. So an effective tool.
Robert, you've got about 5 minutes left, just under 5.
Yeah, thank you for the warning. I think I'm on track. So from that, we then built a tiered daily management, but it started at the Gemba. In the Gemba was where we started. And then as we got bigger, we'd grow from there. So let's talk about the other part of the management system, which is leadership principles. They are already set, but these are pivotal with Amazon. we recruited to these. So for each job we recruited, we would say, what are the top 4 or 5 leadership principles for that job that are required? And we would interview and panel interview to that. So getting the right attributes before bringing people on, and then making stories about and building the culture around developing that muscle of those leadership capabilities was critical. And a number of examples come to mind. One day we'd got one parcel that was left over. It was an express parcel. Somebody paid extra, and at 9 o'clock at night, that parcel was sitting there in the dispatch area. The afternoon leader found it. She rang me and said, we've got this parcel. It hasn't been got on the truck. What am I going to do? It was going to Sydney. And I said, well, what are the possible solutions? It needs to be there in Sydney tomorrow morning, and we've missed the truck. I asked her the question, where does the Australia truck go from here? And she said, to the Dandenong Australia Post depot. I said, well, what are the options? She said, well, I could drive it there, and maybe I'll meet the truck from Sydney, and it'll be okay. She rang a senior exec at Aussie Post. She got in the car, she took the parcel. It made the truck from Dandenong to Sydney. It was all good. Those are the kind of stories that I use to build the culture. So creating that customer obsession and using those stories.
Last minute, Robert.
And that is it. So what was the result? The result was we ended up doing the best country launch in Amazon history. We supplied from day one at 98%. We did the fastest launch of Prime. And we had the highest level of employee engagement, which is measured on a daily basis in the Amazon world. And still 5 years on, it's sitting there. And the fastest launch of AMZL, which is Amazon Logistics. So we achieved the objective and built a fantastic team, which is the legacy. So that's the application of the Lean Transformation Framework for building Amazon Australia. Thank you.
Congratulations, Robert. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. We've used up all of the time, so unfortunately there are no time for questions, but I'm sure people can connect back with you, Robert, if they're interested in following up.
Feel free to reach out. Yep.
Terrific. Thanks so much, everyone. Heading off to our next sessions now. Thanks, Robert. It was terrific. Well done.
Thank you. Bye.